welcome to everyone. This is a huge audience out there, so I couldn't be more pleased. And this is the perfect event to cap off our summer virtual event calendar. It's our last event before Labor Day, and kind of so we breathe a sigh of relief and we go out on a high note. So thank you all for joining. It's an honor and a delight for us to welcome Michael J. Fox and Ali Wentworth to celebrate Michael's latest book. You've seen Michael J. Fox, No Time Like the Future, An Optimist Considers Mortality. The entire world knows Michael from the screen, but since 1991, when he was 29 and diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, the world has come to know him through his Parkinson's advocacy work, raising global awareness of the disease and helping fund a cure through the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research, which is now the leading nonprofit funder of Parkinson's disease science. This is Michael's third memoir. It follows along his previous two, which were also bestsellers. They dealt with, in very moving personal stories, how he came to terms with his illness, all the while exhibiting his iconic optimism. And this memoir follows suit. It also talks about illness and health and aging, the strength of family and friends. But it also it goes farther, it's later. It talks about our perceptions of about time and how it affects us. We approach the way in which we approach mortality. Michael negotiates, as he talks about, he negotiates daily with Parkinson's. But recent challenges have nearly caused him to ditch his trademark optimism and, quote unquote, get out of the lemonade business altogether. So we are fortunate that that didn't happen. And this book is really an account of how far he's come back. It's also a treat for us to welcome back to BookHampton and RJ Julia Ali Wentworth. We've had her with us in person, I think, for her two prior books. That's how we got to know her. And she's, in addition to a TV and film star, a great buddy of Michael. So this is a wonderful duo we've got ahead of us. Ali is known for her, I always find her infectious optimism and really cracking wit. So somebody to kind of go on that analogy really knows what to do with lemon. So on that note, I would welcome both of you. And I thank you so much for being here tonight, the two of you. And Ali, I'll turn it over to you.
Carolyn, thank you so much. I appreciate what a wonderful introduction. Yes, I am going to be talking to Mike Fox, who is family to us, which, and the added bonus is that some of the questions I'll be asking were not highlighted off the book. They're actually from real life. So I'm going to start with my first question, Mike, which is, you have a picture of a turtle on your chapter heads in your book, and you also have a tattoo of a turtle on your forearm. And there it is. Can you tell us the significance of that? Because I think it's very insightful to who you are.
Well, there's a coda to the story, an extra bit to the story, which is when we were in Vietnam together with families, we got up early in the morning, 5 in the morning, and let turtles go. And I have this footage of this turtle swimming out to the ocean. And then he came back, he got hit by a wave and he got washed back. And he gathered his gumption and he gathered his strength and he powered up to the water again. And then it was 2020 and it was a crappy year, and it was New Year's, and it was New Year's Eve, and he went out. I thought the turtle didn't do his job. He must that year, but this turtle did his job. This was I was in the Caribbean in 1999 into 2000 that New Year's, and I was it was a big event at this hotel we were at. Before I went for a quick swim, and Tracy went down to the beach with me. I went in the ocean. I was swimming around, and I saw this turtle come out of the weeds, and I followed it around. And I was trying to decide, separate from that, I was trying to decide whether to leave the show and start a foundation. I couldn't decide. I needed an omen or some kind of sign. And then the turtle came out, and I swam around with it. It had a chunk out of its nose, and it had a bite out of its fin, and it was just trucking, carrying on and doing this thing. So it's I had some work to do. That tells me I have to get this done, and so I did. And then when in 2018 when I had such a tough year, and I figured if I got through it, I was going to put that turtle on my arm, and I did.
Yeah. Yes, you did. Um, I think most people are familiar with at least parts of your journey having Parkinson's, but I do want to start, and you also start with this episode in the book in 2018 when you fell and broke your arm, which started just a domino effect, a bad series of events. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I opened the book with falling in the kitchen, and the backstory of falling in the kitchen was long backstory, but I had Parkinson's for 30 years, and it sucks, but I deal with it, and I she said I negotiated with. I have a detente with. I have a deal. You take this much, I'll take this much, and we'll just set each other away. And then I had a spinal tumor, benign tumor on my spine, which was unrelated to Parkinson's, but I had to get it off, or it was going to paralyze me. So because it was on the cord, and so they had to do this operation where they separated it from the cord without touching the cord. It was really tricky, and the chances were, it was like 70-30. I mean, it's like real risk, and so I did it, and it turned out great, and I think I did a great job. Dr. Theodore and Johns Hopkins, and then it took me a long time. I had to learn to walk again, and literally, when people say I had to learn to walk again, I had to learn to, strike the heel, shift the thing, shift the weight, all that stuff, and I did it, and I was feeling really cocky about it. I was on Martha's Vineyard with my family, and I respectfully called and asked if I would do a cameo on a protege's film. And I said, I'd love to. And so when my family said, are you crazy? I said, yeah, to go back to Brooklyn for a day, Bronx for a day, and shoot this thing. I'll be right back. And they said, no, Skylar has to go back to the city. She'll fly, my daughter, Skylar, she'll fly back with you. She has to go back for work. So she flew back, and long story short, she had dinner at my apartment, at her apartment, and then she said, I think I should stay and get you after work in the morning. I said, no, go home. Just leave me alone. I'm fine. And I woke up the next morning and walked to get breakfast, and turned into the kitchen, fell, and shattered my humerus on the left side. And I was lying on the floor, wondering what the hell happened. Realized I couldn't feel my left arm. And I looked at it, and it was just a bag of gravel. So I made my way over to the phone. I fished my cell phone out of my back pocket. Getting to the phone, realized I had a cell phone in my back pocket. And I called my assistant, and she called an ambulance. And then, as I was lying on the floor waiting for the ambulance to come, I just went through this whole riff about what an asshole I was. Like, what kind of irresponsible idiot was I? With all these doctors and all these therapists and all these people that put so much into me, to make sure I was okay, and dealing with my Parkinson's, and this conflation of illness and nastiness, and they dealt with it. My family dealt with it, and they were loving me and supporting me and being there. And then I just like, I don't need you. And I fell down, and it made me question all my optimism and all my positivity, and it made me really feel like I had been glib in telling people, like, chin up, it'll be okay, look at the bright side. And who was I to say that? I'm lying on the floor, and hoping I don't have to go pee because I can't move, and just feeling like it's the lowest I felt. And none of that stuff was accessible to me. None of that. No. So those bromides and those clever, they worry about the worst thing that could happen. It'll happen to you, and it happens to you twice. All this clever stuff I said, and it just made me question everything. And I went through a long period of time as exhaustive and exhausting as the rehab for the physical stuff was, the getting my brain back together. And I went through some weird stuff, like trying to get to a place where I understood what was important and what was that I was not taking out of, parsing from my general optimism. What were the elements of it, and what was the key element of it?
Yeah.
What was the keystone of my happiness? And it took me a while, but I got there.
But you've had a series of events in your life where you've metaphorically been on the floor and had to find your positivity and find your, for lack of a better word, joy. And you go back into your book, and one of the first things you talk about was you know, you were a partier before your Parkinson's diagnosis,
Oh,
to put it mildly.
My first visit to the Hamptons, I can barely remember.
And
A good liquor store on Main Street, I think.
yeah, and there still is. And when you got the diagnosis, you had what I think is a pretty understanding reaction to it. And you had your first son, Sam. And there's this great moment where you're passed out drunk on the floor. And Tracy, your incredible wife that we'll get to later, is standing over you. And instead of screaming at you or hysterically crying, she looks at you and says, "Is this what you want?"
Could be.
And and big moment for you, because you had to have that metaphysical question. Is that what you want?
No, it's great. It's a gut thing. It's one of those, you said visceral. It just, you don't have time to think about it. You just feel what you feel, and it's intense. Yeah, I was on the sofa actually, but the sofa was low, and I had my arm out, and then there's a spilled
Beer, right?
16-ounce Coors Tall Boy. A terrible last drink.
Gross.
And it poured out on the floor. My son was crawling on me, and I was in the, we lived in the west side, so I had the morning sun coming in and frying me up and made me sweaty, and I just felt terrible. My son was on me, and I love my son more than anything in the world, like some of my other kids, and Tracy, and I wanted him off me. I wanted him off me. I wanted to just be left alone, and that's when I looked over my eyes and saw Tracy's feet, her knees, her feet to her knees, right in front of me, and I thought, I'm gonna pan up now. And I see anger and hatred and violence and the meanness and nastiness. And I did. And I saw this benign, this impassive face, and she just said, "That's what you want? What you want?" And just that moment, I went, "No, it's not what I want." But that was all inside. I was really quiet. And she had to go to the theater, so she was doing a play. And then after she was leaving the theater, she was driving to Connecticut, and I said, she was going to play, and I said, if there's anybody in the play, in the cast or in the crew that is sober, I'll talk to them. And she set it up, and I talked to this person. I just had dinner with her the night, and she took me to a meeting, and that was 29 years ago. So it worked. But then I had to face the diagnosis, Parkinson's, without that buffer. And it was a big buffer. I mean, you said I was a partier when I was younger. When I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I became a drinker.
Mm-hmm.
Became just did no fun in it at all. And to be unburdened of that was terrific. To be unburdened of that and then step into this other thing, which I had ignored for 2 years. And it was just an amazing series of events, like you said. It was just, and once I got sober, I realized that the things that I applied to getting sober, I could apply to Parkinson's. I didn't have to. I was powerless over it, but it didn't have to own me.
Right. And
I could negotiate with it. And I not negotiate with it in the sense of making deals, making bargains, but I could navigate it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was armed with truth, and I had the courage to look at what really the disease was and what it was doing, and be serious about the prognosis, and realize that was real, but it didn't have to be in anyone else's definition of the narrative. Like it didn't have to be. My doctor told me, the first doctor I diagnosed me, said, "You work for maybe 10 more years," and that was 20-something years ago, and a lot of work. And so I realized that not listening to any of that stuff. Like, it's all for me to discover. And I was working with a physical therapist the other day. Said she's never met anyone who's had Parkinson's for 30 years who is as functional as I am, and I think it's because I just love life, and I do. I bother to eat, and I have this great woman who's a great cook, and I eat good food, and I have lots of friends, and that's all important. And so it's just all that stuff to take care of it. But that had all failed me at that moment on the floor.
Yes. Well, I mean, I have a front row seat to your life, and I would say that there are a few things. I think you have been incredibly resilient and disciplined in just the physical parts of having Parkinson's. I would also say that you have an incredible family that surrounds you, and there's a mixture of this family, which I want to talk about, with your just who you are as a person, which has led to success personally and, you know, in the motion pictures. But, and it's a reason that you keep on working. But I want to start with the family because and I'm not blowing smoke up Mike's ass. He has the most loving, the strongest, the most intimate, compassionate, empathetic, beautiful family, aside from mine.
Yeah, I didn't say.
No, yours are better
Really
looking.
great.
But
Amazing girls.
you
And
have
good
this
husbands.
this foundation around you that, I mean, I could weep even thinking about it. You have a wife who is incredibly strong, who is a incredible actress, but I think if she wasn't an actress, she would have been an amazing doctor. And she's
Yeah.
somebody that I call when there are any ailments in my family before I even call our doctor, our internist, because she's so knowledgeable, and she's a partner who is as knowledgeable as anybody about Parkinson's and about Mike and about how you function. And this book is a love letter to Tracy.
Yeah.
And she is, you know, she is your everything, your person. And I want you to talk about Tracy a little bit because, and just gush away, because I love her to death too. And I think she's such a pivotal part of your life.
Well, she's all these things that are really accessible that you point to right away. Like I said, she's an amazing actress. She's really gifted actress, and then she's beautiful. I mean, she's almost my age, and at least like half of that age.
She's enragingly beautiful.
And she's but the thing about her is that she's a truth teller.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't BS. She just tells the truth. So for me, that's really important, because I'll make all kinds of stories up about what's happening with me, and then she'll go, "No, this is happening with you. You're walking the walls, like falling down, whatever. Don't get around that. Don't go to the. It's all okay. Before you go to, I fell down, I cracked my shin open, and it's bleeding, and I deal with it. And so, and this kind of stuff is so important to me. It's at this stage, it's important to me as, I love you, you're handsome, you're sexy, let's dance. I mean, that's all great, but just like, sit down, slow down. Have some water. Just take care of yourself, and then and like I said, to be a truth teller, to just assess the situation, and she's, I mean, there's so many things I can't do for my family. There's things I can do for my family, and I do them, but there's things I can't do for or with them. I just can't keep up, or I can't negotiate whatever task is involved. But I've always felt under her lead, all the kids and all the family make me feel like I'm part of everything, and I'm important and intrinsic to the enjoyment of everything. And you know, we go through all our trips, but we went on a trip to Africa with you guys, and you know, I didn't think I'd go to that. I said, I'm not going to Africa. I read about this in the book. Go to Africa. I can't walk across the street. I can't go to Madison in '96 and get a piece of gum. I can't. It's not happening. And she said, "No, it'll be great. We'll be with the Stephanopouloses and Francis Shankers, and we'll go. We'll get in a big Jeep, and it'll be great." And I don't know. But I went, and it was wonderful. Yeah. And she gave me that, because I wouldn't have done it, because I didn't fear about it.
Yeah, she believed in that, and she also, like you said, she's a truth sayer. And so, you know, I have been around you at times when, you know, you're gonna walk over there to go to the bathroom, and maybe me or George feel uneasy about it, and Tracy's like, he's got it, and you do have it. And also, one of my favorite things you said to us on the trip to Africa was, we are intense, and so when you have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, it's not like for me when I have to get up and go to the bathroom. You are literally in a bouncy house because there's nothing to hold you up.
I can't fall against walls, and it's just in Tanzania, and so there was all this African alien, like antlers and horns and monkey skulls and all, and colonial furniture and folding canvas chairs and all this stuff. And I got to get from that to a bathroom, which in itself is a hole in the floor with plastic rails on the side. And so it was an essential experience every time, and it was great because when you do it and you live through it. But I read a story in the book about being in Africa and seeing the leopard in the tree,
Yeah.
When we saw the leopard in the tree, and we were all around it in a kind of semicircle. And we said, what keeps the leopard from jumping down and grabbing one of us by the neck and hanging us on the tree? Which presently he had a young gazelle or something hanging over the limb of the tree, and I thought we're in trouble. But George reminded me that the guide had said that they don't recognize that a bunch of individuals in a truck. They see the truck, and it's just a big monolithic beast that they don't want to take on. So we were safe with him in the tree, but it's still scary. And then later on, we went. Then I think the next day we went on a trip, and George and the girls were in one Jeep, and my family was in another Jeep, and it started to rain really badly, a torrential downpour. So George decided wisely to take the kids and go back to dry tents and fires and stuff. And so my family stayed out. We hid in a little thicket of woods by a pond, and waited the rain out. And then we went out a wonderful afternoon, saw elephants and water buffalo that were really scary and dangerous and fun. And then we went to go by the old water hole where we had stayed before to get back on our way home, and we got stuck in the water hole. We got stuck in the mud. And I'm thinking, and now it's getting dusk. It's about to be dusk. And I'm thinking, they could walk ahead with guns, and I could wait for the tow truck to come. But I was the proverbial weak, old, lame thing by the water's edge by the pond at sundown, and there was a tree that looked very much like the tree I saw before with the leopard in it, but I couldn't. There was not enough light to see if the leopard was up there. So I'd never been that frightened in my life. Irrationally, I thought that leopard's gonna come down and gonna take me by the neck, and that's gonna be me. And didn't happen.
No.
And then I realized that the only thing scarier than the leopard in the tree that I can see is leopard in the tree that I can't see. And then I go back to the thing. We have this kind of buffalo, and I go back to the tent, and we have dinner, and I go in, and it's now it's nighttime, and I start to make my way to the bathroom in the middle of the night in this tent, and after a dark, black, no light, and I know there's all kind of bumpy horns and bison heads and warthog feet and stuff all over the place, and I'm just thinking, I'm gonna die. And that was the scariest thing I did the whole trip. Leopard joint. It was me in the dark,
right,
without a leopard. And so that's that. Just I mean, I don't have to spell all the metaphors of that. I mean, that's not the leopard you see; it's the leopard you don't see, and sometimes it's no leopard at all. It's just yourself,
right.
And what things like a bump in the night.
But that is so quintessential you. And what I mean by that is that you could have that kind of night, and you come out in the morning for breakfast, and you make a joke about how you felt like you were in a bouncy house. And, that to me is Michael J. Fox. I mean, your humor has not left. For the millions of years you've been on this earth, you have not lost your sense of humor. And we could be anywhere, and you could be in any degree of physical pain, and you are still the funniest person I've ever met. Which
I'd say the same for you. So
but what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis doesn't even come close to what you deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it's that sense of humor and that optimism that has gotten you through. And look, you're still a funny, smiling guy, which is, I can't say that that's true for a lot of people. I really can't. I mean, a lot of people would not be able to accept a lot of the stuff. And again, it is who you are, Mike, but it is also this foundation around you. And I love that you say in the book that when Sam, your eldest, left, you were left in a sea of estrogen. So
talk, sea of estrogen.
Yeah. So talk about this sea of estrogen, these girls that surrounded you, and what life has looked like with them.
I'll say a quick word about Sam first. Sam is 32 years old now, which is unbelievable. And he's a wonderful guy. He's just a mensch. He wears glasses like yours. He looks like Lou Wasserman. He works in show business, so he has this Lou Wasserman thing. He's called there, which is really funny and cool. And so he's a good guy. And when he went to school, I was shattered. I was at a loss. And not that I don't relate to my daughters. I love my daughters, and I'm affected. Safe to say, a feminist. I hire women at every opportunity, smart women, and I have fabulous women working for me and working with me, like Debbie Brooks to start with, who runs the foundation, Nina and Lauren worked with me, and I go on, but I'll say somebody. But all these terrific women. But my daughters are sensational. As are your daughters, and they're all friends, and it's not surprising. But they two of them are twins. They were born in 1995, and they both have finished school. One took a gap year to dance, and then went to college, and the other went to college earlier. So she graduated earlier. She's now going to graduate school this fall, and my other daughter started at school in North Carolina a couple days ago, and so they're so accomplished, and they're so generous. I mean, that's like you're saying about my kids. They're kind. They're the kindest people I ever met. They don't have a mean thing to say about anybody. They don't push like mean girls off and stuff like that. They just have a feeling of anticipation of good things and whatever they do, and they're funny, and they're beautiful. That's Tracy's fault.
The beauty?
Really attractive.
Well, they all look like a mix of all of you. And I think that there is something to be said for parents of kind, inclusive children like yours. But I love this. How are your kids' time machines?
Oh, because they just look at them they're always going forward. They're carrying you forward. And you can. It seems like you remember big events, and there's a lot of them when you have kids, and because you multiply by 4. Like if I have 4 kids, there's 4 times as much stuff that happens, and you deal with, and you learn from, and you learn as much as they do from it, and it's just like you look, and they turn around, and this one who was like Tracy has a thing on her cell phone where it says if you ring through, my daughter Esme answers the phone. It says, "Hi, is your calling Tracy?" It's like 4 years old.
Please leave a message.
Leave a message.
Yeah.
Well, now she's like high school, maybe college freshman, and it's one of the most sophisticated people I know. One of the most fiercely intense, intelligent people I know, and really mature and together. And it's hard to live that voice. That's a time machine.
Yeah.
It's a time machine. That voice on that tape, and this young woman who was stepping out to create a world of her best world.
Mm-hmm.
And she's gonna create her best world, and it's gonna be good. And all my daughters make me feel like whenever I spend time with them alone and talk to them, each one of them, they walk away, I feel like I sit here and look into the world on with a smile. Who can take on nothing day? It's make it all seem worthwhile. The hat up in the air, and I mean, it's like my daughters are all married to
That's fantastic. That's their soundtrack.
Yeah, it truly is. I see it to them all the time.
I love the story in the book, and I've heard it before, but the story of when you and Tracy are on an airplane and you were sitting across from her, watching her sleep, and there was turbulence. Can you tell that story?
Well, I was sitting in the window seat, the aisle seat. I mean, the window seat, which I was taking, and she was in the next seat next to me, and it was a flight, overseas flight. It was to Frankfurt or Copenhagen or something. Our daughters were part the student visiting student in Copenhagen. So we were going in. It was Copenhagen, and there was turbulence. I went to the bathroom, so I had to crawl over her to get to the bathroom. I had to do that thing where you try to get over a sleeping person next to you, and you're very careful. My legs are short, so I can't step over. It's always a big mess. But I managed to get across without waking her up, which is really important to me because she needs to rest. She has to take care of me. So she's asleep, and I go to the bathroom. And as I'm coming back, there's terrible turbulence. As I'm coming back, I see her sleeping, and I don't want to step over again. The next seat is open in the crest of the house, so I'll just sit there and let her sleep and not step over her. So
and watch her dream, right?
What?
And you're watching her dream and sleep,
yeah, watching her dream.
lovingly.
And it was beautiful, and so I didn't want to disturb her. And then there was this horrible turbulence. It's just like all of a sudden out of nowhere, shook the plane, and there was a loud cracking noise with it. It was really disturbing. And I crawled. I was thinking like, what should I do? And then Tracy woke up with the turbulence and looked over where I was supposed to be, and I wasn't there. She bolted out of her seat, flew up to the front of the plane to see where I was, and I thought, that's real. That's concern.
That's love.
And you don't often get a chance to see that.
Yeah.
Somebody just like go, where are you? Are you okay? Are you safe? Do you need me?
Yeah.
It was beautiful because again, it speaks to my whole experience with her in my life.
It's like watching a film clip. You know, you were sitting
Yeah.
there literally watching a film clip of true love, I think.
Yeah, it's good.
Now here's my segue into true love. Gus.
Yeah.
Gus was the most incredible dog, and I have kind of the deflated, smaller version of Gus
You're a great dog.
in a dog
You're a
named
real good-
Cooper. But Mike, you have a
you're
whole
great dog.
chapter dedicated to Gus that made me weep. And anybody that's had this kinship with the dog knows with which you speak. So talk to our audience about the great Gus.
Well, when I was drowning in St. Petersburg, my son went to college. I needed something. I wouldn't know it was a dog necessarily, but I needed something. So I was playing a lot of golf, and I was coming back. My friend Clark Craig was in the car with me, and we were going back to the house. His family were staying with us, and we went by the Chilmark store in the vineyard. It's this gathering place above everybody, and I mean, see James Taylor there, and all these vineyard stalwarts, and there was a bulletin board. They have a bulletin board where they have lawn mowing and guitar lessons and boats for sale, and there was this picture of this dog, this adorable dog, black and white, and it was a Great Dane head, like the little one, and they called him Astro. Yeah, which went away, but he was so beautiful, and so I just thought about him. I kept him in my mind, and I went back to the house, and Trish was making dinner, and she said, I was riding my bike by the Chilmark store, and I stopped, and I saw this thing on the bulletin board. I said, Astro? She said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm gonna get that number, and we called this person up. We gotta see this dog. So we went, and then we went to this woman's house, and she'd gotten the dog from a kennel. It was in the south, and then they came up to New England.
Right.
Went to a shelter in New England. They do that with the swap the dogs around, and she brought it back to Colorado and brought it out to Vineyard, and she was just worried he was getting too big, and he couldn't get big enough for me. I don't want a big dog, so I get this dog and brought him home, and he became Gus. He became my best friend, and we would walk. Like I was getting to the point where I wasn't walking as much. I was giving into a lot of the stuff with the disease, and I was not. I was using it as an excuse to not go for walks, or not go for runs, or not have adventures, or not do new things. And all of a sudden, I had this big horse with me, and when I was walking it, and people were asking me, "Yeah, should I get a saddle for it?" And he was so sweet. He's the sweetest dog I ever met. He just knew nothing but kindness. He knew nothing but he was a metaphor for everything I was talking about. He would if I had a dinner party. I don't know if you just when we were at. He would go and get his blanket,
yeah.
and he'd put it down at your feet, and he'd lie down. And he's like leaning against your foot, and he was 120 pounds, so he had company, and he was great, and he just reminded me of he would just say another son to me, and I always apologize to Sam because I'll say, Sam. Sam is a kind person and lets me get away with that. But that's pretty brutal.
Is it true that Gus used to be a cushion between you and like a ledge or the side of the door?
Yeah, he'd step in my way. He'd step in front of me if I was if there's anything for trouble. He's really untrained rescue dog, like therapy dog.
Yeah,
he just knew how to do that stuff, and he knew that he was not mean enough to chew his food. He was so gentle and sweet and kind, but he knew he was big.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew like I could get him through some stuff. Like if there's another dog that was intimidating or whatever, he would not back down. He would just he wouldn't get angry. He wouldn't show his teeth. He'd just say like you're not getting through me. You're a Cocker Spaniel. I'm like a Great Dane mix. I could step on you and he'd never recover. But he was just gentle with it. But he knew he had it, and it kind of reminded me when I was a kid. I was so small, And I made friends with the biggest kid in the class.
Mhm.
If I was friends with him, then I was safe. And I kind of did that as an adult with this dog. That the biggest dog I could find that it couldn't cut through paper. He was such
So there's so much kindness. I mean, there's so much kindness in your family, with your dog, with your friends, with, you know, there's a cloud of kindness around you, which makes me think of how interesting your work became, particularly after Parkinson's, because there's a story in your book about a woman that came up to you and started yelling at you,
yeah.
right? Because she thought you were the character from The Good Wife.
The feeling of loathing and hatred came over. Yeah, I inspired that at the beach.
Because, you know, before, and certainly, you know, the first part of your career, you were, and it still are, beloved, but beloved for all these sort of heroic, wonderful characters that you played. But you've had some fun in the last,
Yeah.
say, 2 decades,
I
especially with The
learned
Good Wife.
that it's fun to. I stumbled on the fact that, you know, always when I was dealing with this physical concern and puzzle, I figured, how am I gonna work with it? How am I gonna, like, I did this. I retired for a while, and then I was called by a friend, the great Bill Lawrence, who's now is Lasso.
Mhm.
So I'm happy for him. But he asked me to come and do a show on Scrubs, and I did, and I liked it, and so I wanted to work some more. So as it offers to do work, I consider, how do I work this into what my situation is. And I did Chicago, David Kelly's show about a hospital, and it's gone out of my head. And then I did The Good Wife, and
Yeah.
and I realized that every time I saw actors with disabilities or characters with disabilities on shows, they play soft music again and again, and they do their thing until they repeat until they got it done, and then it was great, and everyone applauded, and it was just crazy. And then I got the chance to play with both character on Dennis Leary's show. Dennis Leary's one of our good
Rescue
friends.
Me. Yeah.
And, yeah, Rescue Me, and he gave me this great part of this kind of wheelchair, who was complete. He was a drug addict, a misanthrope, misogynist, just an awful guy, pill popping, drunk driving maniac. And I said, Dennis, what made you think of me? Like, this character? And he said, if I'm any of those things, I don't know it. And you got him in a wheelchair, and he's paralyzed, and I can't stop moving. So I don't know how this is going to work. He said, it'll be great. And it was a great experience. And I played this guy on The Good Wife, and I realized people with disabilities can be assholes too.
Yeah.
Disabled people can be assholes too. They're not all. And it was really fun. And so then certainly a big departure from the characters I played before, Alex Keaton and Marty McFly.
Yeah.
And I mean, these kind of like wide-eyed kids who are optimistic and excited about life. To play this one guy who'd given up and was a mess, and this other guy who was cynical and manipulative and deceitful, this lawyer, and it was just so much fun. It was like a whole new career, and it was really, I didn't have the weight of having to carry a show. I didn't have the weight of like being in charge of getting people to pay money, and none of that. I had none of those responsibilities. I just had to go up and be good, and work hard and care about what I did, and connect with the other actors, and just have fun, and it was fantastic.
I think a real pivotal moment, I think, for your career was in Curb Your Enthusiasm, because when you and Larry David were able to make fun of Parkinson's, I think everybody had a sigh of, oh, wow, okay, we can actually crack a joke about it, you know? And that was,
I'll create the Larry.
yeah. And it was a awkward relief for people, you know? And I think that sort of changed the zeitgeist a little bit too, you know? And I think with your Michael J. Fox Foundation, one of the, you know, most, what's the word? Well, George and I wait every year for the foundation, which raises a lot of money for research, is that
great things for us.
It is not a foundation that you go to and you cry and people sort of walk out with their hearts low. You go and you celebrate the potential ending of the disease, but it's also a celebratory event and an evening. And Dennis Leary is hilarious and you are hilarious, and people find the humor in an unpredictable disease like Parkinson's. And there's a joy to it that, I don't know, is I find life affirming in a strange way, which is how you are with Parkinson's. You have kept your humor intact. You have a career. And I hate this cliche slogan, but you've beat the odds in every way. And I find that your book is such a revelation and an optimistic way of looking at a life. And as we end this, I want to ask you, Mike Fox, what are the things that keep your optimism? I know you don't want to make lemonade anymore, but you can't help it, because even people watching this right now are smiling. They're just smiling. You make us smile and you make us love and you make us feel safe and we root for you. What are the things that make you an optimist?
You do all these things for me. What it came down to when I learned in the book, and the nice lead into the end of the book. My father-in-law passed away early in that year, which was a terrible year, 2018. And he was a wonderful guy. He was a very, very grateful guy, and he was he had a thing on his desk talking about Tracy making people not fear things. He had things as it said professional fear removal. He helped people with their finances, and he made them not be afraid. And he was a great guy. And as he was passing, I had more and more reminders of how much optimism and how much gratitude played in his life, and how grateful he was for everything, grateful for his family, and grateful for in terms of his problems he had. That he got through them, and he understood, and he learned from them, and he was grateful for that. And it was gratitude, and I realized that like with gratitude, optimism is sustainable. Like just like that's what it is. It's about gratitude, and it's when I sit in front of the foundation and our annual benefit that you talk about, I see all these people on board and enthusiastic and moving forward to a rescue, and we don't have defeatist attitude. We started as a research organization, purely research, we're funding research, and that's what we care about, because that was the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized that as we found these things, we needed resources, we needed assets to help us with the fight. And the assets and the resources were the people with Parkinson's and the community and their families. And no one ever came to the friend of me. No one ever came to them and said, "Here are many of us, there aren't a lot of us, but relatively to other diseases, but there's enough of us, we have enough knowledge, and the science is ahead of the money, and we can make some ground here." And so, the first time I heard science ahead of the money, I said, "Well, that's great. That's what it's bet on." And then, and so we've gone from our first year, which I think we gave out about $2 million all told. And we said early on we wouldn't have an endowment. They want money to sit around, wanted to get out right away to the scientists, and so we needed a board where they could assess the science and get the money out. And as we grew, all these patients became critical for like clinical trials and to get their testimony and their narrative, what was happening to them, and how they were experiencing the disease. And so it became a patient science foundation. It became, our patient boards became really important to us, and our patient involvement became really important to us. And that's really what's driven us to the brink of big success, I think. With especially with product, with symptom identification and symptom recognition early on, be able to wait and have a biomarker to assess who's going to have the disease and treat it before they have it. We're very close to that. So essentially, you go to the doctor, say you have a marker, whether it's blood or whatever, for Parkinson's, and we'll give you this drug and you'll never get it.
It's amazing.
That'd be great.
Be great. Well, I mean, gratitude certainly works for you. And as I say to my husband all the time, Michael J. Fox is a man to love. So this is a book, No Time Like the Future. This book it will move you, it will inspire you. And I love you so much.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you from BookHampton and RJ Julia's. This was amazing. Your dialogue's incredible. The book is fantastic. Don't delay. Go to RJ's, go to BookHampton. They'll order it for you. Thank you so much, Ali and Michael, for joining us tonight and for supporting our independent bookstores.
It is our pleasure.
Thanks all.
Bye all. See you soon, Mike.
See you soon.